Hello, Soulful Heroes. This is Christian, and welcome back to another soulful conversation. Thanks for being here. We appreciate your time and attention, and thank you for all the great feedback about the amazing people that we are having conversations with. Today, it's my pleasure, my delight to share with you my friend and um, colleague, Richard Needham. Richard is a photographer, documentarian, and artist. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you about is he's launched a pretty amazing enterprise. It's called Mandalaya. And well, why don't I let you talk about it, Richard? But thanks for sharing your time with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. So, yeah, I don't particularly want to do a sales pitch. This is just something that's been on the back of my mind for quite a while. So as you mentioned, I've worked in documentary, and I went to Mongolia like 5 times to do different projects. And while I was there, one of the things that really interested me was some of the embroidery, and it's made by a minority population in Mongolia, and they're Kazakh women. So Kazakhstan just barely, it doesn't really touch Mongolia to the east, or to the west, excuse me. But anyway, there's this small population there, and these women do this amazing needlework. And if you know anything about Mongolia, Genghis Khan, basically rode all the way to Poland. So there's this, there's the Silk Road, there's this east-west connection. And so some of their embroidery looks like it's partly from Morocco and partly from Russia. And it's just this really unusual looking design. And so a while back, I thought, what if I imported these and wholesaled some of this? And that didn't quite work out. And a few years later, and having done AIT with Christian, I thought, why not try it? And so I did. So I set up a website. It's on Shopify. I imported some of the goods, and hopefully it will grow. So I'm at the testing phase right now. So I don't know what's happening with it. It's literally a one-man operation. And you can go to the website, mandalayashop.com, and see some of the goods. And there are felt slippers there, which are super warm. They're really, really great. And yeah, so that's
Well,
it.
one of the and we'll definitely have a link so that people can to the website. And you do have some beautiful stuff. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight and speak with you about is that it's a project of love and passion. And part of your intention too is to empower the women and the craft women who create this beautiful stuff. And my commitment to the empowerment of women in this world, that I believe it's the single most important thing that needs to happen in the world. Because to that, we can connect all the other issues that we're facing as a species, all the other challenges. But tell me about that from your perspective. How did you connect with this tribe of Kazakh women? And how did you get to this point? What was that trajectory?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't yet have a connection with them. So Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital city, there's this store called Mary and Martha, and it's run by a Scottish couple, and I think they were missionaries, and that was part of their mission, was to make sure that these women doing this work get paid up front, they get paid fairly. And Mongolia is a very difficult place to do business. It's just a totally different culture. It's landlocked. They're sandwiched between Russia and China. They have no port. Anything that comes out of there has to go by air, so it's really expensive to ship out of there. And so it's very difficult for people who are entrepreneurs to get anything outside of the country. It's just, and the distances are vast. It's the most sparsely populated country in the world. And yeah, so I just saw the design. It was really the design that was, there's something different about that. There's something really interesting. And I think that's in general about Mongolia, is just the fact that it's this unique cultural pocket that's between the East and the West, and it's none of the above. And it's impacted, you know, I don't know what the population of Europe, I think there's some statistic like 40% of the people are descended from Genghis Khan. Just because of the Mongol, you know, tribes and yeah.
How
So
far did he get when he invaded?
to
How far
Poland,
did he get? How far west did he
yeah,
go?
all to Poland apparently, and you know his offspring continued, and then there's also I think it's a book called The Mongol Queens about the female, you know, side of the family, and they were very powerful as well. So yeah, I think it was mostly the design, and then learning about it and saying, oh, you know, it supports these women, and this is something that you know, I think there's a lot of sort of greenwashing or fair trade washing. And to be honest, you know, getting all of the ins and outs of what's actually going on is still something I want to get to the bottom of. It's like, you know, you say these people are getting paid fairly, but I need to go and visit. You know, I need to see what's going on. I need to tell their stories. And this is how, you know, starting off a website with just one person, I'm doing a product, you know, the product photography. So if you've got 500 products, you know, that takes a long time, and you end up with one of each. And now I've got to go back and do situational kind of photography, or you know, photographs that show scale. But I also want to go back and actually put up video to show, you know, that's my excuse for going back, is, you know, that's what this really is, an excuse to travel and sort of be a sort of canvas for exploration, working with people, and sales that come from the store sort of enable that to happen. And so it
Hey, it's
enables me to
beautiful
pursue my
when
interest, but
passion
then
and
it also
mission.
supports them. Yeah. And
No, sorry
then,
about that. It's
yeah,
a beautiful thing when passion and mission can come together.
yeah. So trying to find the ways of where those things mesh. Yeah.
And how did you get to Mongolia in the first place? Were you doing a documentary or filming out
Yeah.
there?
Actually, in Virginia, where I live, there's a state, you know, film commission. They have a website, and I went there and looked at the listings. I was like, oh, they're looking for a cinematographer in Mongolia. I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And I sent them an email, and the producer was up in Washington, D.C., and I went up with my daughter, met him, and we just sat around talking. He's like, yeah, you got the job, you know, and so I was great. And so I went and filmed the reindeer herders who are up right on the border with Russia, and they're the Tsatan, and they live literally on reindeer and goat. So reindeer milk, goat milk, and then meat. They can't really grow anything because it's like tundra, and it's the southernmost reindeer herding culture in the world. And they literally, yeah, that's how they live. They live in teepees in the summer. They have winter camps that are sort of more made out of wood, as sheltered in the winter, where the women go, and then the men stay with the reindeer in the winter. And their way of life, you know, there's no sound of aircraft. There's not really any sound of cars. And so you go outside, and it's just quiet. It's profound, it's fundamental. And I think, you know, something in me just clicked, just being there, being able to lie on your back and look up at the sky and see the clouds just floating by, and there's just nothing else. And, you know, these people live together in the same teepees or gers as a family, you know, and the stove is in the middle. It's in a circle, and their life is really, really hard in some respects, but it's really, really free.
Mm,
and just wonderful and fundamental in other ways. And yeah, so that was the first time I went, and we were really looking at the impact of mining on the nomadic cultures in
mm,
Mongolia, because mines will suck up the groundwater and things like that, and impact
mm.
um, some of the grazing land. So yeah, so
Fascinating.
that's how I got there, and then sort of just kept going back doing different projects.
Fascinating. That's really interesting. The whole story behind
Mm.
it. So I know there are people in this group who, in this Facebook group, who have similar dream projects,
Mhm.
works of passion and vision that also make a difference in the world, like
Mhm.
Mandalaya. So walk us a little bit about, because you mentioned AIT, and I wasn't sure that that was exactly the catalyst. Walk us a little bit through that process of how you got from idea to actually you're doing this, you're implementing this, you've brought this idea into creation from the realm of possibilities. So how can you frame that in a way that would support somebody else to do the same?
Well, first of all, Christian, you have a phrase of not, don't half-ass it. You know, that's part of it. It's not that's not a woo-woo thing. It's not. It's like, don't half-ass it. Okay, what does that mean? And I've had to constantly check myself. And there's another way of looking at it. I don't know if you know Dave Goggins, the runner and former Navy SEAL. Um, uh, when you're done.
Mm,
And so when you're starting a project, I think, when you look at social media, or if you have this great idea, and it's like, yeah, if only did that, it's sort of in your mind, it just manifests, and like, there it is. But then from where you are to where you want to get, with pretty much anything, it's actually lots of tiny increments, and there are lots of choices along the way, and there's actually lots of time along the way. And um, it takes patience and faith and trust that,
mm,
you also mentioned there's the Indiana Jones, I think it's in your book, where Indiana Jones is, he's in a gorge or something at the edge
mhm.
of the cliff, and he has to trust, and he steps forward and the bridge appears. And so it's very much like that you don't know what the outcome is, you don't know for sure whether it's going to work or not, but you take that step anyway, and then you get more information,
Yeah.
and then you get the next one. Oh, that didn't work. Or so really, it's sort of using some of those things that we discussed during the program, that kind of, okay, I can, we've talked about that, this is kind of what that is. It's a way of relating to my own emotions as I'm going through it, the frustration, or getting overly excited unnecessarily about, hearing a sale. When a sale goes off, I hear a ka-ching. That's like, I feel like Pavlov's dog. That's really nice to hear. It's really encouraging. Um, but yeah, so I think, I don't know, I'm kind of getting lost a little bit here, but
Well, we're definitely gonna have the link up so that people can, buy it's the holiday gifts, right? It is the season for that.
it's stocking stuff. Is nothing's over $100. There are everything from small Christmas like star ornaments. Again, the felt slippers are really, really great. And then there are bags. So unless you're looking, for any men looking, yeah, the slippers are probably for you, the ornaments are probably for you. Otherwise, it's probably a gift for ladies. Although, I have friends who like ethno man bags.
Mhm.
So, the kind of groovy hipster hippie guy, or someone likes, something that's a little different. There's the Dawn Treader bag, which is, people who smoke sometimes like their little bag of, goodies, or what have you. So
Yeah, yeah,
um,
I could see that. It's a
not to
beautiful
get
stuff,
too
beautiful
gendered
designs.
about it, but yeah, the bags are just, they're just neat. Um, and yeah, so where were we?
Well, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into, because was this a pandemic project? What was the impetus for it? Because we're living in such incredible times of chaos and uncertainty, where change is, just part of our everyday life.
Yeah.
So what was that connection there, and what words of advice and support do you have somebody who is feeling all this uncertainty and yet have a sense of an idea, a sense of purpose, a sense of mission, a project that they want to bring forth?
Yeah, so it's worth, first of all, whatever you're thinking about, I would say, you don't have to stop everything you're doing to pursue that full time. You can just set aside time each day, like playing a musical instrument. 20 minutes a day is the way to do it. It's not going to happen. You're not just going to sit down and everything's going to be done in one day. That's, you just can't do it. And I think that goes back to what I was saying before about the process and the stepping forward. So those tiny increments of getting more information, and when you're done. And I asked myself that question: am I done? Is there more I can do? No, there's always more I can do.
Right.
And I want to do that. And so, yeah, I think for a lot of people, there's all this talk about recession, and I've seen I work doing sales and marketing for an academic tutoring company, and doing test prep, and so that market's really been in turmoil. And so part of this is saying, well, what can I do from where I am that sort of has some of the skills and interests that I have, or things that I'm interested in, and can I do that, and what would it take? And there are so many tools out there in terms of communicating, and platforms. Like, I put this up on Shopify, and it's amazing the stuff that other people have built for you to be able to sell things online. So if I'm building right now, it's sitting as its standalone website, and what I'm realizing is that to get everyone to come to a standalone website is really difficult. You have to do lots of sales. You've got to, if you advertise on Facebook, you're sending out to 1,000 impressions, and then the people you're sending out to probably aren't really looking for what you're selling anyway. So then that tells you information. So I spent, however many dollars, and did I get a return on that? No, I didn't get a return on that. But what I did get was information. Like, spending $29 to not get anything back is probably not a good idea. Maybe this isn't the platform. Or maybe I need to spend more, or the prices aren't right, or it's not what people are looking for, or I need to put more images on the website. So there are all these things, like, have I done everything I can do? No, I can't. But by doing something, you get that information, and you can be negative and just give up, in which case you're back at square one. You're always back at square one when you completely just throw in, tip the table over and say, I'm done with this. You're back at square one and you've got nothing out of it. If instead you say, okay, what can I draw from that? What can I learn from it? And how can I use what I've learned to iterate? That's how things grow. And so
I love that. A couple of things that I want to highlight from what you said that I think are really helpful. One is the incremental approach, one step at a time. And I love that visual from Indiana Jones, where related to trust, right? Like, we take that step into the void, and then the bridge shows up, the stone shows up to meet our foot. But we've got to initiate the process. It's not going to happen in a vacuum. And the other thing that I think was it's important that you said, done, right? Use the word done. How do you know that? How did I know that I was done? And that's one thing that I've learned from a business coach whom I work with. It's like, done is better than perfect. And so I think that is invaluable for all of us to realize that it doesn't have to be perfect. And like you're saying, there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
but you got to that place where you felt, all right, here's enough. Like it's done. I'm ready.
Yeah, my
Um,
site's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There are lots of things I can do with it, but I think the thing I'm hooking onto, it's like, well, if I take a 1 year outlook and say, if I haven't sold anything within a year, then it's just a failure. Okay, that's kind of putting a lot of expectation on myself, right? Some of the most successful businesses didn't have anything happen within a year. But if I stretch that out and say, okay, 5 years, oh, well, if I kept going for 5 years, there's a lot I could do. There's a lot of information I could get. There are a lot of iterations I could make, change products, change, whatever it might be, learn more. If I stretch out to 10 years, well, now I've got enough of a runway that my expectation is not going to bring me down, because my expectation's up here and wherever I am at the beginning is way down here, and it just feels overwhelming. So really taking that long-term view gives me confidence that even if it's not successful, that I'm taking the right attitude and the right approach to being able to manage all the things and expectations and unknowns that will inevitably come along the way.
yes, brilliant, Richard. Thank you so much for sharing your very alive experience. You're right in it. You're just at launch.
Yeah.
So we're happy to be here with you. Happy to support you. Hey, everybody, go out and get some stuff at Mandalaya. They're great last minute gifts for the holidays. And thank you, Richard. Much love and many blessings.
Yeah. Thanks, Christian. To you too. And happy holidays, everyone.